Hi everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving into Wuthering Waves version 2.6, Main Story Quest, Chapter 2, Act 8. I'm Mustang Bro, and this is a full recap of the story so far. With Act 9 arriving in just a few days, I hope this video helps you catch up or refresh the details before the next chapter drops. Alright then, let's get started.
The story of version 2.6 picks up right after the Augusta overturn quest. Augusta had other matters to deal with, so our meeting with her was postponed. While we wait, we speak with Abby, until an attendant arrives carrying a letter from Augusta. In it, she summons us to the Ephor Palace to discuss something called the Hunt. Inside the palace, we're met with a striking moment. Augusta sits on her throne, regal and intimidating, before testing us with a brief spar. This MSQ is filled with cinematic touches like this, scenes that feel like pre-rendered cutscenes, but they play out in-game, seamlessly blending with the story. With the spar behind us, Augusta explains the hunt. For the Septimontians, this duty is sacred, fighting the dark tide at the Sanguis Plateaus. The land itself is scarred. Its skies are still shrouded by the Blight Cloud, a remnant of the first outbreak in Renaciata. Within it, countless TDs roam unchecked. To resist them, the Septimontians rely on a massive device called the Earthrend Wedge. It suppresses the dark tide, though only within its range. Even so, another high tide is coming, and this one promises to be more brutal than ever. Augusta asks us to join her in the hunt. We agree, though we remind her of our own mission, to pursue the Sentinel relic and journey in paradise. Thankfully, she assures us these goals align. The Earthrend Wedge itself is tied to the Sentinel Imperator. From here, we set out toward Tempest Cliff, where Augusta and the gladiators are gathering. Along the way, Avidius guides us, noting that this year's high tide came later than usual, and he's not sure if that's a good sign or a bad one. At Tempest Cliff, Augusta appears distracted. She hears whispers, strange, unsettling, hints that something deeper is affecting her. Soon after, one of the most breathtaking sequences in the MSQ unfolds. Augusta and the gladiators leap into the clouds, soaring on the backs of griffins. It's peak cinema, though I'll admit, I did notice a few frame drops during this scene, even with a decent TPU. And then comes our first big challenge, the Corrosasaurus, the Wuthering Waves T-Rex. This is the first time Augusta fights alongside us. But unlike past quests, the game doesn't showcase her kit here. Honestly, it threw me off. I didn't realize how her ultimate worked or that she had two versions of it until much later in the quest. Eventually, we force it to retreat. Just then, Iuno makes her dramatic entrance, striking the creature. Augusta tells us to let it go, explaining they've already prepared a trap for it. Together, we regroup at Hunter's Den, the busiest camp in the Sanguis Plateaus. Here, we learn more about the Septimontine culture, and we start to see cracks beneath the surface. Iuno explains that Hunter's Den was once under the temple before being shared with the gladiators. Still, her short personality has made her unpopular among many. Tensions with Avidius are clear from the start. And for me personally, this was the moment I fell in love with Iuno's character. Augusta had already impressed me with her strength and design, but Iuno's presence, her conviction, and yes, even her flaws, just sealed it. She instantly became one of my favorite WuWa characters. Sorry, Carlotta and Jinchi. Before leaving, Iuno invites us to visit the temple. Augusta, meanwhile, explains more about the threat we face. The Corrosasaurus is part of a deadly species of TD, and the one we fought is a Tyrannos, a vanguard of the Dark Tide itself. The Dark Tide, she says, was created by the Threnodian Leviathan, carrying its will across the land. The Earthrend Wedge can sever this connection, but only within its limited range. Their plan is simple: lure the Tyrannos into Maroonwood, where the wedge is strongest, and destroy it there. As Augusta departs, the whispers still haunt her. We continue toward the temple, overhearing gladiators discussing Septimont's inner politics, Augusta's uneasy prophecies, the Senate's doubts, and whispers that Avidius is being groomed as her successor. This is where the story begins to weave in the deeper conflicts between faith and politics, tradition and survival. Inside the temple, we're immediately drawn to the murals on the wall. There are three main ones. The first mural is blank. The second, placed in the center, contains only a sentence, though parts of it are missing. It speaks of the fate of Septimont, likely a prophecy. The third mural is blank once again. Further inside, larger murals tell different stories. One depicts Fabius, the first hero of heroes. Another shows Attilius, the second. And the last depicts Valeria, the third hero of heroes. As we study the murals, Ovidius approaches us. He explains that these are the work of priestesses who glimpsed into prophecy using the sacred flames. These flames are created through special minerals, their proportions kept secret by the priestesses. By channeling resonance through the flames, they're able to catch visions of what lies ahead. Ovidius continues, reminding us of the two great prophecies, one's first mentioned in the Overturn quest. The first, the Ragunesi prophecy, declares, "Hear this, O faithless ones of Septimont. The divinity of the high heavens has grown enraged. Should your monarch once more stand in contempt of their will, annihilation shall be your fate." In short, the divinity is angered by Septimont's lack of worship. Should the F-word defy their will, destruction will follow. The second prophecy builds on this, spoken by the priestesses themselves. It states, "Only the hero of heroes of extraordinary power, risen from the dark tides, shall bring eternity to Septimont. Then shall the water quiet, the tempest still, and glory return with the blood of the old king." This one is more hopeful. It foretells that only a hero of heroes wielding extraordinary strength, or perhaps an extraordinary forte, can suppress the dark tide. According to Ovidius, the murals here describe a coming calamity and the hero destined to stop it. Yet the identity of that hero is left unknown. Just as the mural is incomplete, so too is the prophecy, either unseen by the priestesses or deliberately hidden. At this moment, Iuno joins in. She needles Ovidius, suggesting that he sees himself as the hero of heroes, especially with the Senate backing him as Augustus' successor. She even points out his recent expedition to Mainz Deep, where he earned the Home Leaf Medal. Mainz Deeps are ruins of an ancient civilization within the Sanguis Plateaus. Legends say those who venture inside can hear whispers of past heroes, even gaining power to rival them. The Home Leaf Medal, meanwhile, is awarded only to gladiators who perform extraordinary feats against the dark tide. Ovidius doesn't deny his ambition. He admits he hopes to protect Septimont's glory, and if that means becoming the next hero, so be it. Yet he also notes that Augusta lacks the extraordinary forte the past heroes possessed. If she allows it, he intends to challenge her honorably. Then he leaves. Iuno now, alone with us, explains further. After Augusta rose as Ephor, she rooted out corruption directly, bypassing the Senate's authority. This cost the senators their wealth and influence. Naturally, it put them at odds with her. Even so, Iuno reassures us Augusta is far stronger than Ovidius, and she could defeat a gladiator like him with ease. Still, she admits that something about Ovidius feels strange, unnatural even. She leaves with a lighthearted gesture, acting almost cute. And yes, moments like this make me love her even more. Afterwards, we meet Lilibet, an elderly woman who claims to see a void within us. She explains that void does not mean emptiness, but limitless possibility. If we follow it, it will guide us towards many paths. The perspective shifts briefly to Iuno as she scouts for the Perososaurus from above, her griffin soaring through the skies. Using her resonance, she fires an arrow towards a distant pillar, marking the location of our next camp. Back with Augusta, she shows us the cliffside where the anchor wedge is located. To prepare for the battle ahead, she gives us an anchor stone, forged from tacitite. These stones power anchor obelisks, devices that repel the dark tide. By placing them across maroon wood, the obelisks create a force field, driving enemies towards the wedge. The plan is simple. Place the anchor stones, push the Corosasaurus into the Asphodelbarans, and finish it there. But Augusta warns us, the creature is intelligent, capable of laying traps of its own. As she speaks, whispers echo in her mind once again. It awaits you. Whether this comes from the Thernodian Leviathan or the will of the Dark Tide itself, we cannot be sure. We set off through Rustblood Pass, dodging fireballs as the T-Rex ambushes us with waves of TDs. It's also the first time Augusta formally joins our party. And honestly, this would have been a perfect place for Kuro to add a proper tutorial for her kit. With how different her abilities are, a little in-game guidance would have gone a long way. After pushing through, we reach the first anchor obelisk and activate it with the stone. Augusta hears the whispers again, this time speaking of shadows. Suddenly, the T-Rex attacks her head-on, only to retreat when countered. Augusta goes chase. Iuno arrives soon after, telling us not to worry about Augusta. She hints that the T-Rex is just an appetizer. She's hunting something even bigger. Together, we continue to the second anchor obelisk. Along the way, Iuno upgrades our terminal with her resonance, letting us track traces of the dark tide itself. In the ruins that hold the second obelisk, the T-Rex ambushes us again, blasting a fireball that opens a new path. We push deeper through collapsing tunnels and swarming TDs until Augusta leaps down from above, turning the tide in our favor. At last, we activate the second anchor. Then the third. With all three in place, the dark tide's fog is repelled. The battlefield clears, funneling the T-Rex to its final destination, the Asphodel Barrens. And that is where the true fight awaits.
Iuno warns us that the Asphodel Barrens are the birthplace of the Corosasaurus. Here it has slaughtered countless gladiators, and no one has been able to push the dark tide back beyond this point. As the hunt continues, Augusta confronts Avidius directly. She acknowledges his ambition, his desire for power, and his wish to challenge her for the title of Ephor. But instead of dismissing him, she urges him to fight at her side. If he truly wants to prove himself, then let him face the Trex and earn the right to be called the Hero of Heroes. Both Augusta and Avidius clash against the beast, but Augusta gains the upper hand, severing the Trex's horn. For Iuno, watching from the sidelines, the scene is striking. The image of Augusta overlaps with the murals of the Heroes of Heroes. In that moment, Augusta's strength speaks for itself. The wounded Trex tries to flee, but the hunters are ready. Together, Augusta and Iuno have already prepared a trap, not for the Trex, but for something far greater. Soon, the battlefield trembles as the false sovereign of the dark tide arrives. It descends upon the injured Trex, consuming it whole. At Augusta's signal, Iuno unleashes her arrow. A haunting cutscene follows. We see Iuno's arrow swallowed by darkness, her vision collapsing into a nightmare. Septimont burning, Augusta falling beneath a black sun, and a molten hand shattering her arrow. When she plunges into the water, that same hand reaches for her, until she sees a thread of white light and her silhouette calling her name. Iuno jolts awake from the vision to find us shielding her from the Sovereign's strike. Augusta leaps forward, blade in hand, driving the enemy back. The Sovereign retreats into the depths, leaving only silence behind. Checking on Iuno, we find Abby at her side. Somehow, Abby has consumed part of the dark tide's fog. He even calls it mushy. Afterward, he drifts away to rest. Augusta approaches, but once again the whispers creep into her mind. They speak of Abby, our echo, marveling at its ability to devour the dark tide. They belittle Augusta's fragile form, insisting she will achieve nothing, and urge her to accept the gift of divinity, to return to Murmurtown, her homeland. Iuno's voice pulls her back to reality, but the doubt lingers. Later at camp, Iuno rests and then opens up to us. She explains the vision we glimpsed. It is Septimont's fate, its destruction, and Augusta's death at the hands of the dark tide. These visions, she says, don't lie. They don't deal in illusions. They reveal the deepest insecurities we try not to face. We ask if they can be false, but Iuno insists her prophecies have never been wrong. And yet, she admits she despises the helplessness they bring. She even reveals that she once gave up her ability to see fate in exchange for the power to resist the dark tide. She refuses to bow to destiny. Here, I found myself wondering, how can someone truly exchange one power for another? It reminded me of the rover, giving up memories in exchange for a new beginning. Iuno explains further. The figure we saw, the false sovereign, is unlike other dark tide creations. It has no fixed form. It devours, reshapes, adapts. Before the hunt began, she and Augusta had planned to use the Trex as bait to lure it out and destroy it, but the plan failed and the Sovereign escaped. As we talk, Iuno hands glow faintly, an after effect of her resonance. She admits her power stabilizes Darktide's form, but at the cost of fragments of her own existence. Even so, she reassures us that rest will ease the strain. Before we part, she gives us a bracelet infused with a portion of her resonance, a keepsake passed down from her predecessor. It will help us locate the Dark Tide, but she asks that we return it to her later. On the way back, we encounter Avidius again. He admits this situation is worse than he imagined, and for now, sets aside his ambitions. He tells us more about his expedition into Maine's Deep during the last high tide. The lower wastelands were blocked by the Dark Tide, yet he and his companions pushed through. Only he survived uncorrupted, aided by the legendary Masona plant, set to resist the Dark Tide's influence. For this feat, the former F4 awarded him the Homeleaf Medal. With this revelation, we continue on to rejoin Augusta. As preparations begin for the next battle, Augusta tells us that Septimont is now working with the Black Shores. With help from a consultant out of Rinachita, they've struck an agreement. The Black Shores gain access to Septimont's resonance nexus in exchange for tech support against the Dark Tide. And that consultant is none other than Buling. When we suggest contacting her ourselves, Augusta agrees. Buling doesn't hold back. The data she's received is alarming. During high tide, the Dark Tide always behaves strangely, but this time it's evolving. According to a report from Tethys, the so-called Sovereign is absorbing frequencies at an incredible pace, not just from the Dark Tide NTDs, but even from echoes themselves. Once it's consumed enough, it won't just attack Septimont, it could destroy the Earthrend Wedge in a single strike. Without it, Rinachita would be swallowed whole. We explain Augusta and Iuno's field plan. Buling notes that Tethys detected a strange frequency mid-hunt. Everything was stable until then. Afterward, the Sovereign began to manifest far more rapidly. Someone or something may be interfering, perhaps even Fraxidus. Augusta insists they must stop the Sovereign before it absorbs more power. Buling narrows down its location, east of the Sangless Plateaus, in a place called Murmurstown. Augusta recognizes it immediately. It lies near Fabianum, her hometown, lost to the Dark Tide 16 years ago. The gladiators march to the wasteland. The ruins weigh heavily on their spirits, but Augusta rallies them with steady resolve. Avidius volunteers to place anchor stones around Murmurstown, creating a defensive line, while we and Augusta split up to track the Sovereign. She warns us to be careful of the hollow figures, victims of the Dark Tide, whose stone-like body still murmurs senseless words, praising the corruption that consumed them. With Buling unable to lock onto the Sovereign's mixed frequencies, we turn to Abby. He tries, but the signals remain muddled. Along the way, we encounter a waystone, a massive statue set to be formed from the lingering emotions of gladiators guiding those who come after. Its right arm is missing, yet as we follow where it should point, a black fog drifts past. Abby confirms, the smell matches the Sovereign. We give chase. The fog hides among hollow figures, animating them into enemies we're forced to fight. After the battle, we recover a torn sleeve from a gladiator's gear. Abby notices its resonance feels strange, a blend of Sovereign frequency, but also something else, something that feels like a gladiator locked in combat. Together, we decide to return the sleeve to the waystone, hoping it will reveal more. While everything else is unfolding, the story shifts back to Augusta. She stands before a lone tree in Oak Hollow, and once again hears the whispers. The voices tempt her. Don't you wish to be the true ruler of Septimont, to end the tragedies of your people? Accept the divinity, take our gift, and rise as the Sovereign. But the whispers also mock her weakness. They tell her she's just a fragile mortal who does not deserve greatness. We then glimpse a child Augusta calls Angel. In that moment, Augusta rejects the offer. She says that power freely given is not true power. If it cannot be earned, it is not hers to claim. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The child Angel looks strangely similar to Galberna. Same hair color, same accent, even the same kind of monster that Galberna speaks to later in Rinashita. Many players now wonder, could the whispers Augusta hears be the same entity Galberna talks to? With Augusta rejecting the whispers, she receives a call on the terminal. We found the lead to locate the false sovereign. At the Waystone statue, we place a cloth on it. Suddenly, a sprite of a gladiator appears and begins to speak. Abby explains this is a sonoro, a frequency made from that gladiator and the dark tide he fought against 16 years ago. Augusta joins us, and as we talk, a song plays within the sonoro. The song invites us inside. So we enter the sonorosphere. Inside, we find ourselves in Murmurstown, except it isn't ruined. This is the town before the dark tide destroyed it. Back then, it was called Fabianum, Augusta's hometown. We discover lingering frequencies of two children, revealed to be young Augusta and Angel. Through these echoes, we learn more about their past. Fabianum was the front line against the dark tide. It once home to many heroes, but no savior came. When the Senate lords failed to send aid, Fabianum fell and became the cursed Murmurstown. The sonoro shows us the tragedy. Angel is injured. Both children hide from the dark tide until a gladiator sacrifices himself to save them. But when Augusta tries to protect Angel, the monster ignores her. Its true target is Angel. The whispers mock Augusta's weakness once more. Strength alone can rule Septimont. Back in the present, Augusta admits the whispers were real but cruel. She knows the Senate plots to replace her, hiding behind empty prophecies. Yet she must remain strong for her people. She also reveals something shocking. After that night in Ocalo, she found Angel transformed. Her resonance power grew beyond human, and Augusta never saw her again. This makes many believe Angel is actually Galberna. The monster chasing them could be the very same entity Galberna speaks to today. If so, maybe Angel gained extraordinary power in Maine's Deep and became the so-called hero of heroes. But this is only theory. The truth will come in the second half of the patch. We still have Faloba's art from the trailer waiting. Finally, the sonoro fades. In its place, we obtain the pure Darktide frequency we were searching for. We send the data to Billing, who calculates the location of the false sovereign. And with that, we return to the real world to continue the hunt. The story shifts to Avidius. He orders the gladiators to prepare the anchor stone before the hunt for the false sovereign. But the elder of the Senate interrupts him, mocking him. They remind Avidius of his failure during the Trex fight and warn that his chances for the next F4 position are slipping away. The elder claims Murmurstown should be the place of his next great achievement, not working under Augusta. Avidius fires back. He says the Senate only wants a ruler who is strong, but easy to control. If Septimont falls, the Senate will fall too. He declares his duty as a gladiator is not for their entertainment, but for sacrifice and loyalty. The argument ends when the elder suddenly shows signs of Darktide corruption. Avidius knocks him down, orders the others to let the elder rest, and sets out to find the Masona, a plant that once reduced corruption. His search leads to Alcolo, the same tree trunk where Child Augusta and Angel once hid. Confused, he mutters this must be another Darktide illusion. Then a call comes from Augusta. Everyone must regroup to face the false sovereign. We return to our own POV as we approach its location. Abby confirms the frequency is close. Using the bracelet from Iuno, we lure the sovereign out. A battle begins. Cornered, the sovereign flees. Avidius throws his spear, but is struck and sent flying, his metal falling to the ground. The sovereign escapes into the Oak Hollow tree trunk and begins absorbing nearby frequencies, flooding the land with Darktide. It grows even stronger as it feeds on the Earthrend Wedge. Augusta starts hearing whispers again, reminders that rejecting the divine gift has consequences. But Iuno snaps her back. At camp, Bulling reports that the sovereign's insides are unstable. If we can force it to swallow something, it could collapse from within. Iuno suggests using the anchor stone. Her role will be to stabilize the sovereign's form while we and Augusta force it to ingest the fragments. Augusta protests, worried Iuno doesn't have the strength. But Iuno reassures her. The sacred flames have already shown her fate, and she accepts it. She asks only one thing, that we promise to stand by Augusta, no matter what destiny awaits. We agree. With that, we break the anchor stone into smaller shards. Even a small piece, Buling said, can make a huge difference. Together we march towards the border of Murmurstown. Augusta opens a massive hole in the wall. Iuno readies her final arrow, filled with resonance. She fires, pinning the sovereign into solid form. And with that, the stage is set for the decisive battle. Before the final battle, Augusta confides in us. She reveals that the whispers, those same voices from 16 years ago, never truly left her. Even now, they guide her in combat, telling her when to strike, when to dodge. For years, their voices faded after each victory, until she became Efor. That's when they returned, stronger than ever. She explains that following their guidance always led her to the better path. The prophecy of Raguna had been whispered to her, and now they urge her to fight us, to test our power, to prove the prophecy true. And so Augusta challenges us in battle. She declares that if anyone besides her could sit on the throne, it would be us. The whispers urge her to accept their power, but Augusta resists. She questions them. Why stop her now if they've already proven the prophecy true? Unless she was their true target all along. The voices claim to be divine will, beyond mortal comprehension. Augusta presses further, asking what they did to Angel, her old comrade. But the whispers only scorn her doubts. The fight intensifies. Dark fog envelops Augusta, and we see from her perspective. Illusions of her teacher and falling gladiators appear, each asking her for a weapon. One by one, she gives away her sword, her armor, even her headpiece, until nothing remains. The dark tide mocks her as a failure, empty, powerless, unworthy of the throne. But Augusta refuses. She declares that she still has her people who follow her like the sun, and her fists which will never falter. With that, she strikes from within, shattering the sovereign's hold. As we battle the false sovereign outside, Augusta bursts free from its core. The creature reforms, now in human shape, and together we press the fight. Near defeat, its core is exposed. We leap to destroy it, but the body lashes back, only for Augusta to shield us. Summoning the spirits of fallen gladiators, Augusta forges them into her blade. Sword after sword joins her own until her weapon radiates with their strength. She declares, "This is what true heroes look like. This is unshakable power." With one final strike, she obliterates the sovereign, reshaping the battlefield itself. Together, we won. Augusta thanks us, calling us Septimon's hero of heroes, but we remind her that the extraordinary was hers as well. She smiles, concluding, "Perhaps both of us can be the heroes of heroes. After all, prophecy never said there could only be one."
After the battle, we ask Augusta what it felt like to be consumed by the dark tide. She admits it wasn't pleasant, yet strangely, it was also refreshing. Inside, she was guided by the lost frequencies of fallen gladiators, voices that refused to give up and helped her hold on. Without them, and without us, she would have been lost. When asked why she chose us for the hunt, Augusta explains it was partly because she wished to fight by our side, but more importantly, because of our unwritten fate. For years, she prepared for this moment with only broken murals and fragmented prophecies to guide her. When we appeared, an anomaly without destiny, she gambled on us being the key, and that gamble paid off. She then tells us we've reached the end of this journey, the Earthrend Wedge, where the Sentinel Imperator left something behind. At its base, a device called Discord appears. From it, we feel the Imperator's presence. When we show it to Augusta, she remarks it looks like a compass, though locked by some hidden mechanism. She suggests it may require a special key, a code, or even a name. The game offers two paths. If we choose Cartathea, we say that she may be able to unlock it. Her knowledge of the Imperator and her unique power could be what's needed. Augusta, intrigued, asks us to introduce her one day. If we choose Black Shore, we note their advanced records in technology. Perhaps their research could uncover the Sentinel's secrets and aid in resisting the dark tide. Augusta agrees. Their tech may hold the answer. With this, Augusta tells us to enjoy the victory. There will be celebration at camp. But she reminds us, though we've won this battle, the greater war is far from over. Still, with Septimont united, they will never fall.
The perspective shifts to Cristoforo, a high-ranking overseer of Fraxidus. He walks through Murmurstown, the very place where we last fought the false sovereign, using Iuno's bracelet to lure it out. On the ground, he finds a fallen home leaf medal, the one that belonged to Avidius. Cristoforo picks it up, remarking with quiet amusement, "What a near-perfect protagonist. Even I didn't see this coming." He wonders if this medal marks Avidius's final act, or perhaps his creation's next step. Cristoforo muses that fate is sharp, cold, and unforgiving, yet he still wishes to see how far the soul he created can go. As he speaks, the metal dissolves into paper birds, fluttering away into the air. It's a chilling detail, because we've seen this before. Back in the Overturned Quest, Nestor transformed into the same kind of paper birds. The implication is clear. Cristoforo created both Nestor and Avidius. For now, he decides to leave Avidius be, to watch, to see how his story plays out in the end. Finally, we cut to Galberna's perspective. A fleeting moment, just a few seconds, but shown now from a different angle. We glimpse her face, hidden in the shadows, before the screen fades to black. And with that, the first half of version 2.6's story concludes. The second half will arrive in the next phase of the patch. For now, Septimont stands battered but unbroken. The whispers of fate linger. The false sovereign has fallen, and the shadows of Fraxidus move quietly in the background. The stage is set for what comes next.